No, I'm gonna so that they can have the footage of the wall and stuff. So we gotta like switch sides.
Oh, we're in a bunch of stores. Where do you live by? Where's grocery Korea? That would have been Hope, yeah. But we're not.
Get a drink. There's drinks by the cooler.
Maybe Bogies would be the
Bogies liquor would be the closest. It's our website. It has
Like
all
selling
the
these drinks because I do not want to take
Bogies is
them.
on it now. So Chloe and Hawaii.
I redo grades all year round because it's 18 seasons, so I just start from the beginning once I finish.
We're in like
so like
20-ish liquor stores right now.
Yeah. And then once and the season was done, I started it again. So
Hello.
I know it's 14.
Welcome, everyone.
Yeah.
Thank you for coming out. It's really such a pleasure for all of you to come out to join us tonight for Voice the Vote, a reading and fundraiser for voter mobilization presented by Art Save the Vote. Give it a round of applause for the cause. Big voting year here in California and Los Angeles, and of course around the country. Before we get started, I'd like to remind you to please be so kind as to silence your cell phones. If you could do me a favor, once the speaking portion of the event is over, fold up your chairs and stack them against the shelves. All right. Jacqueline Grace Lopez is an actress, singer, podcaster, and person who produces poetry events in her spare time. She's done an awesome job here tonight setting up this wonderful event. Please give her a great round of applause. And Jacqueline, I'm going to run in the back and turn off the music, so don't worry.
Yeah!
Looks like my soundtrack. Okay. Hi everyone, my name's Jacqueline, but y'all can call me Jack. A lot of you already do. How are y'all doing tonight? Everyone at home? I want to offer a quick welcome and some housekeeping items before we hear from our amazing poets. First, I want to acknowledge that we are on Chumash and Tonga land. Next, I want to acknowledge and thank our ASL interpreters for tonight, Flo McHenry and Selena Flowers. Thank you. And now on to the reason we're here. On your seat and at the end of each row, or really on the table by the refreshments, you'll see pieces of light blue paper, aka our programs. On one side are the short bios on all the poets you'll see tonight, as well as their IG handles. Please silence your cell phones, but if you snap a quick pic or vid, make sure to please tag and follow these poets tonight. They donate their time, they're incredible. Y'all are gonna stand them hard. All right, on the other side are 3 QR codes. Tonight, our goal is to get you inspired and ready to vote. So if you want a way to start, the first QR code at the top is to check if you're registered to vote. The second QR code is to register to vote, if you haven't already. And the last QR code is to donate to our nonprofit partner this evening, Feel Good Action. I'll talk more about Feel Good later on, but now let's get the party started. Bridgette Bianca is a poet and professor from South Central Los Angeles. She received her Bachelor of Arts in English from Howard University and her Master of Fine Arts in Writing from Otis College of Art and Design. Bridgette Bianca has performed her poetry all around Southern California, including at the World Stage, the Southern California Poetry Festival, and the Unfadable Reading Series. Bridgette Bianca's work as a writer and as an educator seek to serve the people and moments most forget to ignore. Her first book of poetry, Be Trouble, was released by Writ Large Press in 2020. Please welcome Bridgette Bianca.
Hello, everybody. Okay, I'm going to read you a few pieces here. Thank you, Jack, so much for having us. Yes, I just started calling you Jack randomly because why not?
Yeah.
So all these pieces are from my book, Be Trouble. And please do remember whatever you want to. Maybe it was for like this. You know. This first poem I wrote after the 2016 election. An exasperated Black woman said, "Fuck it, I'll do it." It is fall. I have recently buried a loved one. It is the morning after the election. You are disheveled and teary. You assume the pain in my eyes is yours. You hug me, a stranger. You say, "It's so good to talk to someone who understands." I don't remember speaking. I don't remember your face, stranger. Later, I only realize I'm crying by the look on my students' faces. This is not a poem. It is fall. Someone drove past my window and shouted, "Fucking niggers," and only I seem to hear. It is a few days after the election. You come to me for confession. You are mad at yourself for being so naive. I tell you the word nigger is a threat to my safety. You are late and have to go, and I am alone again. This is my life. It is spring. I have buried another loved one. I feel faint after yawning. It is months after the election. You are growing angrier. You ask me if I feel the same. I've been invisible, but now I was useful, so I say, I am a Black woman, and I am invisible again. This is not a poem. It is almost summer. You blurt out, ever since the election, you wake up wanting to kill yourself, and you laugh. This is my life. It is fall. 194 Black people have been shot and killed by the police. 73 more than the last time I read this poem. What will that number be by winter? This is not a poem. I had a student whose father, Terry, was shot in the head while lying face down with his hands cuffed behind his back. The police pursued him because he didn't have the proper reflective lights on his bicycle. This is my life. You may have noticed that I like to use my hands when I speak. This can be seen as aggressive, and I might frighten you into killing me. This is not a poem. Do you understand how taboo it is for Black women like me to go to therapy? Because we are supposed to be strong for everyone. This is my life. I am sorry that you only realized the world was fucked up when your sisters voted with their white skin and not their pink pussies. This is not a poem. While you vomit angst into my lap, forgive me for not holding back your hair in solidarity. This is my life, so I'm a little busy.
Yeah. Woo!
The talk. Lesson number 1. No toy guns, no running in public, no hands in pockets, no outside voices. Act like you got the sense God gave you. Act like you've been somewhere. Act like you got somewhere to be. Act like you got a mama who raised you within an inch of your life. Don't you cut up in front of these white people. Do you want them to take you away from me? Tie all bags at the top before entering. Don't touch anything you don't plan to buy. Didn't I tell you to take your hands out of your pockets? Don't swing your arms when you walk. Take your hands off your imagination. You acting like you pro. Mind your mouth. I swear, oh God. You better not let me catch you doing something you ain't supposed to, and you better not have nothing in your pockets. I don't care what they said to you. I don't care what the others get away with. They are not my child. I don't care if their parents don't hold their breath when they see a face flash across the evening news or their news feeds. Just bring your tail home. I don't want you out of my sight. Because if I can't see you, if I can't hear you breathing, then every siren is always headed in your direction. Every face in despair, every body on the ground, every bowed head in cuffs, every gasp for breath, every plea for mercy, every hand up in the air, every fist balled in anger or fear looks like it belongs to you, and you are mine. But they can take you away from me, don't you know that? You've got to know better, do better, be better. And I know even that won't save you, but what else can I do? So lesson number 1, no toy guns, no running in public, no hands in pockets, no outside voices. Act like you got the sense God gave you. Act like you've been somewhere. Act like you got somewhere to be. Act like you got a mama who raised you within an inch of her life, and get your behind back in this house. And don't make me tell you again. This next poem is an excerpt of a longer piece, but I wrote it when they announced that Kamala Harris would be entering the election in whatever capacity at that time. That's called Reason Number 72. I will never become president because they see me a brown loaf of a woman as somewhere soft they can rest their heads and warm their hands. And who wants Mammy in the Oval, mumbling juju under her breath or screaming bloody murder and begging you for mercy as you pull the baby from her arms? I will never become president because I did that already. Sacrificed and made this nation great for you the first time around, while my own children went to market. No one wants Mammy in the Oval unless she's carrying a tray or a tune. And if I can't sing, then who cares what sound I make when I am wounded or angry? And besides, I'm tired of cleaning up your messes anyway. And I have one more for you. Thank you again so much for coming, for being a part of this historic night. This poem is called I Want the World to See. When Mamie Till decided to let Emmett Till's body be seen by the public, in public and also in magazines and for the foreseeable future even today, people asked her repeatedly for 50 years, why would she do that? And her answer, one of them was, I want the world to see this is what racism looks like. And so here's the poem. 7. I don't get to talk about my body hitting the ground or the hands that pin me there. Everybody else gets to body bag me, slip me out when they are bored, fidget spin me, and see if I am as pliable as their laws. See if the Black woman really is the mother of the world. Explore my womb looking for the Big Bang or God. Am I making you uncomfortable? 6. Did you know Planned Parenthood offers more than abortions? Did you know WIC don't pay for diapers? Did you know formula is expensive? And I can't breastfeed my baby in private because I have to work. And I can't breastfeed my baby in public because you only like my titties when they're bouncing in your face. Am I making you uncomfortable? 5. Judging me for putting juicy juice in my toddler sippy cup. Like I got time to worry about high fructose corn syrup or artificial food coloring. When you just legalized marijuana, but my son is still getting stopped and frisked. How dare you paint white mothers hooked to opioids with the finest brushes and oils? After you slammed me into the concrete so many times, I couldn't help but have crack babies. Am I making you uncomfortable? 4. You take my kids and send them hurting across the universe. Lie and call them shooting stars when they're just plummeting asteroids. And then you judge me because my babies make craters they can't lift themselves out of by their bootstraps because you cut those too. Am I making you uncomfortable? 3. Due to a surplus of Black children, they are inexpensive to adopt. People treat cheap things like they are disposable, like drive a car full of Black children over a cliff. Am I making you uncomfortable? 2. This is what it feels like to be a woman in a land more concerned with putting restrictions on my pussy than assault rifles. This is what it feels like to be anything but white in a country that values Confederate monuments more than my child's flesh. Am I making you uncomfortable? 1. Good title. This is why Mamie left Emmett's casket open. Thank you.
Told you we weren't ready. Thank you, Bibi.
Should have brought my pen.
Oh, we should have all brought our friends. We got seats in the front if y'all want to come down.
Come sit.
All right. Up next, Traci Kato-Kiriyama. She is the author of Navigating Without Instruments, an award-winning multi-inter and transdisciplinary artist, recognized for their work as a writer, performer, theater deviser, cultural producer, and community organizer. As a storyteller and artivist, TKK is grounded in collaborative process, the collective self-determination and art and community as intrinsically tied, and a critical means towards connection and healing. She is a performer and principal writer for the Full Project Ensemble, two-time NET recipient, NEFA 2021-22 finalist for their show Tales of Clamor. Their work is also featured in a wide swath of media and print publications, including NPR, PBS, Elle.com. Please welcome Traci Kato-Kiriyama. Thank you all. Who the hell goes after Bridgette Bianca? Right? Yeah, I just want to give thanks for inviting me in, and it's so great to be here with these amazing poets. I'm going to read 3 pieces. This first one is after the victims and survivors of the June 12, 2016 tragedy at the Pulse nightclub in Orlando. Do we all remember that? Yeah, the shooter was Muslim. Yeah, it was a gay club, and so there were all kinds of things happening. Yeah. Somewhere between Orlando and a biopsy. My left breast goes into a hole, center of a long table. I think that is odd. Why is the hole in the center? I lay down on my stomach to position myself at the table's midsection. The vice comes in, and the nurse's hand tugs and pulls, and we converse anyway. There is a doctor coming soon named Needle. Hello, Needle. Hurry up, I will say. The nurse will pat my back at its center and ask me what I do for a living. This is always the tricky part between strangers. Keep it light or keep it real. Tell her everything? Cut to the chase? What do I have to lose? We will be there for 40 minutes. She will have my left breast in her right hand for most of it. Enough time for honesty and judgment without the sting of attachment. If what I say centers around her discomfort, then she will still have my left breast in a vice, and we will be even. I tell her everything. I cut to the chase. I have nothing to lose. I speak in lean terms. I center on my truths. Me as queer. Me with mind split between yesterday's shooting and tonight's vigil. Me in vigilance for the dead as much as for those left running for cover in the days, weeks, and years of backlash. Me in love and solidarity with my family of queer folk, Muslim community, our immigrant families, and the list continues. My politics are not shy. My words attempt to carve an avenue on this cold biopsy table. She looks me in the eye. She listens and nods. A map emerges between us. She says she wishes she could join me. There is work and life and no time, and she tells me, you go to this vigil for me too. I wish I could nod back, but I can't move from the center. Instead, I moan. She understands that language much better than I do. She speaks in possibility and kindness and grabs my hand. Within minutes, I chart her origins. We locate an old dream of her, once a painter. Within minutes, she navigates my politics and my relations. She nods as I moan and squeeze her fingers. My half-numb breast is stuck in a vice with a needle at its center, and all is good, and I am fine. So yeah, I forgot to mention before that we were planning this vigil, and it was like the day that I had to go in for a biopsy, and that led to a diagnosis, which we since have very much kicked its ass. Yeah, 5 years ago. And so during that time, I was working on this book, Navigating Without Instruments, also by this book, along with all of the books.
But it took a very long time to finish this sucker, and I'm just glad it's done now. So I was thinking a lot today about, sometimes I think it's frustrating, right? And it's like, oh, why vote? Fuck it all. But then I also think about the people that have raised me and see our lives as always in solidarity with each other, that we belong to each other. And I think about that a lot. And so I'm going to read this. Letters to Taz. After Taz Ahmed's If Our Grandparents Could Meet, dedicated to my JA allies. Dear Taz, I hope this finds you in spirits unlike my own. I have tried in vain to find more on the stories you seek of your family. Why does research of our ancestors feel so unromantic, so disappeared? Please no one say to me again you can find everything on the internet, that fraud of a storyteller with no soul. Why do our pages not come back to us on carriage or horseback or chins tilted upward with purple, pink, golden sunsets in the background visage they left behind? I find bits and bytes of information that build a shell of a structure too sterile to house your family's truths. Why are our pages not pages at all? Where are the voices that interlace the iron gates with records of trains that move past the point of what maps have been drawn? Where are the memories, split by the wire that surrounded them, burdened with more weight than what they could carry? Where are the remnants of their proudest echoes being stored? I am feeling wretched as we are left to merely imagine the holes and fill the memory and surmise the blankness. If it is any consolation, once in a while and only a very spare while, I can't help but find it might be better this way. With every tale we trace over eons from reluctant kin, with every notice of heartbreak we extract from bone and grave, skin and soil, how luscious in fact it is to find less, hear less, know less. When a memory that is old and belongs to the dead only makes their moment of crushing land like a rusted nail at the tip of my tongue. That lost son, that never meeting, all those babies dying as babies and then again as adults, that turned cheek, that hidden bottle behind the cash register, that snickering hand, that taking and taking and taking again, that last sip, that time and again starvation, that hole in the ground underneath their trustful feet. I suck back the acid, clench these stories with my teeth, keep them with me. There is nowhere I trust to spit them out. My body is in constant debate on whether to forbid their release. Do you ever feel this? I suspect this is a taste you too know too well. I hold you with me, keep me with you, TKK. I have just one more. This is a longer piece, but it's my last one, I promise. I've been spending a lot of time with my mom, and I've not actually been able to read this out loud, so I thought this would be good, though, for today. On America, Election Eve, after Joshua Bennett, after Rocio Carlos. We were stuck on the 110 freeway traveling south. Out of nowhere, my mother tells me she was my age when she realized why she's been angry all these years. Always in Los Angeles, those deep conversations while driving, avoiding eye contact while staring into history's abyss. She'd read an article in the LA Times on childhood experiences and their lasting effect on the adult psyche. No sooner did she say aloud, "Of course, that's a no-brainer," then did the room begin to spin. Newsprint leaping off the page, turning like her stomach, from black to blue to white to red. Flooding her mind with the times her temper flared at lunches with neighborhood ladies who filled her belly with their discomfort. She said she was too angry and too often talking about race. Said things weren't that bad, and there she goes again. And fetal chats turned into argument, turning their chins in all directions away from her, leaving her alone to stare at paper plates of potato salad and potluck disdain, in a room full with the chatter of deafening silence. That article was penned in the 1980s, when I was called like she'd been called as a child in the 40s, Japs go home. I hadn't known the auto industry was crumbling on the other side of our country, but neither had any of the kids at school, or the ones near the mall with their bikes and breezy threats, or the ones in between aisles of cassette singles at the record store, always whizzing by with the same combination of words everywhere I went. I was convinced they were from the same church or underground after-school club, given a secret dictionary of terms and tactics to show kids like me what colors we were to use within the lines they draw around us. I came to learn then of the sundown towns, my neighborhood, a brand of its own kind, where black and brown folks get pulled over suddenly and the cars that speed past have Buy American bumper stickers all over the back. I was learning the different versions of America. The version that had my mother face those lunching ladies, but instead see FDR, see Barb stuck in tumbleweed, see her color fade from America's mirror, see her father so broken that sometimes the vapors of sake and whiskey were the only words his body could speak. I imagined with hope how she might have finally seen herself, a full-grown adult, when Grandpa revealed his deepest moment of pride in the time she was 2.5 years old. A miniature hurricane in dusty shoes, instructing the rest of the family they were not to leave for Grandma's house just because the army had set up shop on their farmland for the war effort. Scaring her older brother to tears, those soldiers positioned next to the Kato nursery sign, their rifles taking root in the soil. "This is our home," she screamed. "This is our home." My mother's anger formed my bones to flow through my blood and stand ready at the back of my throat. Her voice, a generational echo chamber for the whispers who came before her, each one of the past, giving permission or perhaps begging those who come next to be louder than the last. She is in her 80s now, has learned to transfer less ire onto the women of her earlier years. She found a much bigger enemy in yet another president. She curses his name while writing "Get Out the Vote" postcards to our neighbors in Arizona and Florida with great fury and cursive that looks like flowers yelling. I wonder if she ever gives her anger credit for the compassion that spews out of her mouth. Like a few years prior, half conscious and losing blood after routine surgery, using what little energy she had to lament for those without health care and to continue cursing the president. She is not only my link to our family's trauma, but is the courage unlocked from deep inside our ancestral sinew, carries all the reasons for my reasons. The heat in my blood, these hands that knew to break the flesh-colored crayon in half and move on. These lungs that helped me yell at that white man for cheating against me at a child's game at Circus when I was 4 years old. These feet that leapt up from my desk to disrupt our 11th grade government class, arms outstretched to the teacher too often with articles our textbooks refused to teach. My mother's mouth that lives through this now, so full of fire there is little room left for air, and I cannot keep it shut. And when it is time for her to look back for the last time, I will be there to remind her the best of her fire remains the strongest of my colors. And I thank the universe and all versions of heaven that her anger is evergreen.
Yeah.
We continue. Thank you, Tracy. All right. Vanessa Angélica Villarreal was born in the Rio Grande Valley to Mexican immigrants. She is the author of the award-winning collection Beast Meridian. And let me press our plea. Recipient of the 2019 Whiting Award, a Kate Tufts Discovery Award nomination, and winner of the John A. Robertson Award for Best First Book of Poetry from the Texas Institute of Letters. Her writing has appeared in the New York Times, Harper's Bazaar, just this week, Poetry, and elsewhere. She is a recipient of the 2021 National Endowment of the Arts Poetry Fellowship and a doctoral candidate at the University of Southern California in Los Angeles. where she is working on a poetry and nonfiction collection while raising her son. Her essay collection, Cueca, is forthcoming from Tiny Reparations Books, an imprint of Penguin Random House in 2023. Please welcome Vanessa Angélica Villarreal. Thank you so much for coming out, everyone. Okay, ya necesito lentes. I don't know if you're in the same place I am with elections. I do it every 4 years, every 2 years really. And I'm just so exhausted and so cynical and just, I don't feel the fire anymore. I don't feel the faith. And if you're there, let's do it anyway. Right? Because if we're not voting for people, we're voting for propositions that really matter. Right? This one is Prop 27. I would encourage you to read up on it and vote no on it. I won't be too specific because you're here for a poetry reading, but yeah, let's keep the faith.
Yes.
Settlement. I flee to the edge of this country in the two-stag dark. Stand on an escarpment, undoing itself in ash. Not yet a boy, I eat still the figs that gloat with inverted blossoms. When halved, sometimes a blonde wasp encalled in its violet robe. This, of course, is the dream body, eating its omen. California moons, a coast breathing oranges, a fire fast as horses, duplicitous husband, a steel great border extending its long law into the ocean, a wave halved. Never trust beauty to represent brutality. I can give you no language that will free the child from her cage, make no meaning that unfloods the world, no verse that can unfire a bullet. I eat the spine of God to stay alive. Eldest daughter to an eldest daughter of an eldest daughter, I citizen 3 child mothers at the river's door. Obedient bruise root, rebel virgin, doomed bride. Translate passage. The girl abandoned in the sinking marshland will never be named in America. America is just another boy with bad intentions, another flooding plot of discovery drowning its ever lousier yellows. How many daughters have been paid to the ship? Dissolution, to witness my own water burial. At the cut bank, knifed the rope and split the dress, mating myself taut as an elm bow drawn, thighs seized red, holding a dormant knot. In every father's cruelty to his daughter is a husband recognizing the danger of himself. Every man a heat-trapped rancor, every promise a demon's gem. Mirror-born, the wolf girl will learn 2 names in the twinned land, tense with blood memory. Checkpoint. Border Patrol asks, place of birth. I speak. Exit the vehicle, legs open. The moon, enthroned in oaks, shines through the woodlace over the state. A father in grasses. A headlight cleaves mother and boy. Another child at the edge of this country, another body denied a metaphor. What regret can be daughtered deeper? I write a lot about immigration, but I find it very difficult to look at immigration directly, and I find it very difficult to aestheticize brutality. So how do you write poems about violence? How do you write poems about brutality? And so poets are constantly having to navigate this sea, right? This next poem is called Function Equals Root Future. It's a family tree. The disappearing side is the matrilineal side, and the real-time side is the patrilineal side. Year 0, matrilineal equals repeat. cycle, inherit, does not exist. 0 equals Gatman. Blooming ranch fields, a throat packed with cotton, no choice but to marry her eldest off to the hoof-beaten storm. 0 equals Angélica. Escape the hoof-beaten storm, escape the garnet-eyed doctor, escape the stillborn country that pummels you to rags. 0 equals Celia. English synonyms for future, escape, amnesty, green card, possibility, dream, I promise, I will, I do, pregnant, labor, indebted, hospitalized, soul, provider, burden, loan, insufficient. 0 equals Vanessa. Witness this pattern now cycling into me, again lost eddies of time, lost again. I submerge my body in the river of unclaimed memory, swim again to its cervix and speak into the sea. I did everything I was supposed to do, and still an unbroken line of broken lines. 1 equals Joaquin. If someone is going to make it out of this dream alive, let it be you unbraiding for me. Let it be that this cord, its arcing line, when viewed from above, is an infinite field, and let the field open for you like a bell, its bend veined with a lace of new stars, and let each new star echo on earth as a blossom, bursting from the black, so that you, born from this blood-dark grief, marbled with error, can still be perfect. Let every good beast carry you in its eye, open with wild knowing. And let every sagging telephone line carry my voice to you when I'm gone, when you're lonely or scared. And in a sleep-soft drift, you'll think you hear me in the kitchen. And yes, there we are again, reflected in the bend of a steel spoon, the milk still spinning as we lick off the chocolate. And there we are again in the rust-burnt dusk, embers whirling off the mountainside, the last sight we'll have of an ocean. And yes, I'm sorry. I am so, so sorry. What else could I have done to stop the cell from splitting? Year 1, set patrilineal equals new. AD, T equals timeline, D equals discovery. Conquest, 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 conquest. Start chronometer, start collective memory, start archive. Before the ship's arrival, there is no history. Any subject exhibiting any of the following conditions will be removed and denied re-entry into real time. Undocumented, uncivilized, uncontrollable, unskilled, unwell, unaccompanied, unassimilated, uncolonized, unclean, unintelligible, unclean, unmarried, unattractive, unbecoming, unemployed, unauthorized, unprofitable, uninsured, underfoot, disabled, disappeared, diseased, disadvantaged, discarded, disassociated, disordered, dissenting, indebted, prehistoric, pre-agricultural, pre-capitalist, pre-discovery, pre-colonial, pre-Christian, primitivity, pre-literate, precarious, prey. Real future function. And after the coral bleaches to bone and the poles thaw and the clouds shatter a searing rain, the SpaceX colony will have already built an electromagnetic wall to border its orbit. And in the field, the bent workers will still scoop tender chard under a burning sky for the empire. And even the mountains will kneel and witness and surrender to the sinking to greet once again that same ancient ocean. And when the last elephant falls, we will know the end of memory, and time will go white, and the future white, and the past white, white, immaculate of fault, all time collapsed into a single line, all histories consumed by the official record and its impeccable family lines, traced back through the whitened field itself so straight, and us broken in broken trees to make way for the future, progressing ever forward in a line of suns. But any voyage that assumes a forward course will loop to its origin and cross itself, So the compass rose will enclose the world into the shape of a gun sight. And when there are no new lands to map in blood, how pale will the horse of the last sunrise look underwater? Learn from this, little one. Time was never a line, but a field. And you are occurring alongside the past. And when I recognize Abuelito's life in you, or offer a bending lily to the dead, we are born and together again. And every minute I choose you, choose to fight and don't drive off the mountain. I encounter the infinite as the will to survive. This is my last piece. This is a fairly new one. It came out in The Nation over the summer. This is actually written into parole denial spreadsheets that were declassified toward the end of the Trump presidency. There was an investigation being done in human rights abuses in detention centers. And essentially, like 2-year-olds, this is, one word, like 2-year-olds and 3-year-olds were being denied parole and being deported without parents. So with a little help from poets tonight, we're gonna do an experimental reading, an experimental performance of this poem. Also, because this is a table, I was looking at CSS code of tables, and you can make the lines of a table disappear if you do the command border collapse, which I thought was really, yeah. Code. Table, border collapse. In America, the land is a ghost of the land. In America, the land is a ghost of the ghost. In America, the land of the ghost in the land. In America, the land is the ghost. In America, the ghost is the land. In the land of the is the free ghost land. Table. Border style, solid. Border style, law. Empires, bottom line. Gross domestic product, lifespan. Border style, a timeline moving forward from an ancient south. The line itself, a manufactured record, manufactured estate, dividing those who remember from those who don't, those who belong to the past from those who belong to the future. Border style, manifest, future equals forgetting. Who is entitled to a destiny? Parent table, TD and child, the fates equal, child.value, row.cells, cell value, the wolf womb, the time wound, the dark pines, shining back eyes, the shine back, the wailing woman, the strike from a man, the scalpel of the state, the cut flower, the fist and the girl, the half moon between nations, the first generation border patrol, the drawing of a cell, the coyote's den, the way out. Global values, input ID, orphans, value equals unset, orphans equals 5,500, initial, orphans inherit, orphans revert, child table nested, border style hidden, display table cell, overflow hidden, visibility hidden, border color inherit. Every migration is the carrying of a child toward home. Border style family photo. Mire que aquí con chanclas, still screaming for his mother, next to the man with the gun. Chiron, experts debate. A child's abject terror, abstracted on loop. A silence between sides. Sound check. Back to you. Now it's time for a break. Thank you, Gigi. At this point, I'd like to check in with all of you and take a quick break. How are y'all feeling? How amazing are our poets? Y'all inspired yet? As mentioned at the start of this event, Feel Good Action is the nonprofit we're raising money for tonight. Tonight is free, with generous donations from multiple people I'll thank at the end of the event. But that means that 100% of the money we raise tonight goes to Feel Good Action. Feel Good Action harnesses the incredible power of micro-influencers on social media to turn viewers into voters. We are a diverse system of media makers, game developers, artists, data wonks, strategists, academics, advertisers, lawyers, activists, and students. FGA is a values-based media organization. We produce and distribute inspirational media that creates action to advance social justice and environmental sustainability. Sounds pretty good, right? They've also produced and provided all the QR codes we're using this evening on the back of that blue piece of paper on your seat. So if you haven't already, make sure to tag and follow at Feel Good Action tonight. And if you have some latte money to spare, after you buy everybody's books, please donate to that QR code at the bottom of your program. We're asking for $10 each, but any little bit counts. It's all tax deductible. Thank you in advance. All right, so now that we've got our stretch done, we're supposed to stretch. Let's get back to our poet. Jaha Zainabu is a poet and visual artist from Long Beach, California, currently residing in Los Angeles. Jaha has been a member of the Anasazi Writers Workshop at the World Stage in Los Angeles, California since 1992. She was the poetry instructor for Say Word and Community Literature Initiative. She was the artist in residence for the Girl Blue Project and is currently the artist in residence for Women Preach, Inc. She is also the producer of Red Stories, a storytelling show in Los Angeles. Jaha has traveled throughout the United States performing her poetry. For the past 12 years, she has been the artist in residence for Women's Preach, and she has toured her work in many colleges, churches, schools, theaters, and poetry venues. Her new book, I'm Writing to Tell You, is now available through Mama's Kitchen Press, as well as the audiobook. Please welcome Jaha Zainabu.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for being here. I'll share 3 poems. The first one is called Hustle. We'll work for food. We'll fuck for money. We'll suck for a shower and a night out. Anal for a month's rent. I will be your pretty girl. I will call you daddy. You can be my Superman, keep me safe off the ground. Do you know concrete women like me? Do you know how we live? Do you know what we do for a tampon, a cheeseburger, a shake? I will kiss you slow. I will wear my hair long. You want a skinny woman? You want to see how fast I skin? You've seen me before. Women like me, sleeping on bus stops, under trees, no shoes. I clean up well. I pretty up nice. I sex real good. I have given up on this life, can't you tell? Tell me what you want me to be and I'll be. Tell me what to say. Take me to your place and I'll sit nice and quiet. Do you want a queen? Do you want a whore? Do you want a slut or a cunt? Do you want me spread all over your body? Do you want to know how I got here? Do you want to know my story? Will you give me a hug, some fries? May I keep the change? Will you save my life? Woo.
Come on, poet.
Thank you. We learn to push love away through imitation. We saw early our fathers and brothers second us to their cars and gods. Our tenacious rhythm of articulating our womanist sensibilities through double dutch chants and house play with candy cigarettes. But why did we have to choose a struggle? Be black or be woman? Like color and pussy don't connect. Be gay or be Christian. Like love and religion ain't the same. Sex nasty or be white. Like legs wrapped so squeezed around my man's waist, say I am his queen. Hair nappy or bone straight. Like how steady my comb stick, say whether I can fight a dog off my back. What do you know about where our lives intersect? Like we can't have faith and be afraid. Like we can't forgive and remember how dirty you played. Like we can't be double afraid of our reflections and look into our eyes at the same time and know how magnificent we are. You did your thing. You did good. I know the world will not slow down, no matter how fiercely I stretch my fist to the sun. But I know how to pray. I know I am always praying. No matter my physical position, no matter the words you think you hear, I am always in conversation with spirit. See, we converse like two old women on a Mississippi wooden porch, chipped paint, headscarves, sweet tea, dogs barking at strangers, flies at our feet. I know God like that. Don't you? I will take my last breath one day. This is not an if. But before I do, I want to tell these stories so shut up in my bones, I drag around like wet towels, stopping of tears my grandmother's mother's mother passed down. Stories that come to me in the night from folks I don't know. Ain't got nothing to do with me except they know I know how to get a prayer through and a story straight. I don't know everything, but I know that getting back to the basics is the best business at hand. I know we are nothing without each other. What does it matter, all this good I have, if heavy on your mind, so muddy you can't inhale longer than you blink? What good are fancy dresses and red-bottom shoes if they about to cut off her father's feet? I know sometimes the clouds get low. I know there are days I feel stuck in a mass of sadness and fear and anxiety. Sudoku my brain so math, I forget the numbers to dial. But I know how to reach. I know how to be still. I know how to rock and sing. I know how to cry. I know how to remember how good God's been to me. I know how to wave hands. I know how to give thanks. I know how to close eyes. I know how to know that clouds pass. I know ain't none of this easy, so I know how to give you me when clouds come to you. I know therapy sessions should be held at Roscoe's Chicken and Waffle. Over grits and eggs, prayed over by a greasy hand man with a handkerchief in his pocket. I know that. I know food ain't free, but I know how to cut mine in four so we can all eat. I know it's up to me. I know it's up to you. I know I am learning how to forgive. I know that forgiveness does not mean that the stories won't rise, but I know how to let them out. The same one by one way they got in there. I know that I am wonderful. I know that I forget how wonderful I am. But I know how to remember the next time I do. I know to open my eyes and look right into you. Thank you.
last performer of the night is my very talented friend, Christopher Rivas. Chris is an actor, essayist, New York Times, Boston Globe, Zocalo, Outside Magazine, podcaster, and storyteller best known for his on-screen work on the Fox series Call Me Kat. In addition, he hosts 2 podcasts on SiriusXM and Stitcher, Rubiosa, a limited series about the life of Porfirio Rubiosa, and a weekly show, Brown Enough, to be released in September this month. Rivas is simultaneously authoring a book, Brown Enough, that is slated to be released on October 11th, 2022. So this is a major spoiler alert. He is a PhD candidate in expressive arts for global health and peace building from the European, lost my pages. You all good? He's ready.
The timing so the books can fall.
All the books.
Providing me time. Appreciate you. Disaster. Yeah, buy everybody's books. I would say get my book in this bookstore, but it's not available, so get it online for sure. Request it through this bookstore. I know a guy. That's a mic. Last year, I was asked by the amazing people who put this thing on to write something for it, and I did, and I performed it, and I think it went well. They asked me back, and some of that made it in this book, and so I'm going to.
I love it. I'm excited.
And so I'm going to read from that chapter. I won't say which part sort of made it in. You probably know. And then I'm going to kind of jump around. Yeah, cool.
Yeah.
This chapter is called The Gospel of Endless Growth. If I lose my direction, I have to look for the North Star, and I go to the north. That does not mean that I expect to arrive at the North Star. I just want to go in that direction. Take my mom. The first time I saw a redwood in Big Sur, California, I knew it was singular. Redwoods precede the naming of places. A tree older than walls, borders, older than government and its institutions, a tree older than racism, colonialism, student loans, poor health care, GoFundMe, Bitcoin, debt, Proud Boys, and even voting. A tree older than America. A 300-foot tall tree older than all of that. The first time I saw one, I knew it was the closest thing to the dinosaurs that I was ever going to get to. It was as if the earth started on that Big Sur coast, as if life crawled out of the waters right there and made a home in that forest, in those trees. I knew it was magical, majestic, wondrous. Above all, I wished I could give it to everyone I knew back home. I knew if they were here, standing in this grove, surrounded by thousands of years of life and resilience, that they too would be able to feel it. Feel what is mostly indescribable. Feel what must be felt, a medicine that is as ancient tree and the smell of dirt and pine and time. Unlike many of my friends, I never grew up camping. As an urban dweller, I didn't have a relationship to nature. I had Central Park, but I never saw or felt trees like this. Growing up a young hooligan in Queens, the closest thing I had to grandeur and magnificence, and it was magnificent, were the giant buildings I was trained to never look up at. Tourists look up. New Yorkers, we just keep walking and fast. And the bright and always on lights of Times Square and the subway cars that kept it all going, but it was the trees, logging and wood of Big Sur, and many more forests that paved the way for the infrastructure that allowed so much of the urban environment in which I was raised. I was taken to Big Sur by a college friend of mine who was a filmmaker working on a documentary about the destruction and deforestation of the redwoods titled, "This is Why We Can't Have Nice Things." He was struggling to make the film. He thought it never felt strong enough to make an audience feel this tree's monumental importance. He'd say, "I can tell you that there is less than 4% of the original redwood forest remaining. I can show you exact figures for its carbon sequestration powers, but how can I make you
feel how that's going to impact your father, your sister, all the people you care about. It will, it already is. Standing underneath a redwood named Stout, also known as Big Tree, I felt the kind of overwhelming sadness and rage that weighs down your entire body and applies pressure to your chest and claws its way to the pit of your stomach. I wanted to apologize to Stout, to all the trees that feed, protect, offer shelter, and ask for nothing in return. I'm sorry. I'm sorry I didn't know better. You treat me with nothing but kindness, and I consume it. I consume all of it. I'm sorry for all the times I littered, for all the times I made excuses, for anything that hurt this place, this earth, you. I'm sorry. I never thought this way before about nature or the environment. All I know about environmentalism was don't litter, and I only knew that because I saw my pops get pulled over for throwing some trash out of his window and complaining about how expensive the ticket was. I'd been to church as a child, and yet nothing felt this holy. Nothing spoke this loud while simultaneously being this quiet. 3,000 years of existence will do that to you. It will just teach you how to be present, how to just hold space. I cried. My friend said, yeah, it'll do that to you. I was a grown man, and it's like I'd never seen a tree before. When we see it, we can feel it, and when we can feel it, we can care about it. Now, I don't want to lead you down the wrong path. I mean, I'm pretty sure, if you had read this book, I'm pretty sure you know this by now. But I am no climate activist, nor am I a genealogist, climatologist, or environmentalist. I am a writer who recycles like your average person. I try to cut down on single-use plastic, but mainly I have a ton of plastic waste. I shop at Trader Joe's. I use the occasional reusable item. I did just purchase a reusable cotton swab. It sucks. And grocery bag when I remember. I do not compost, and I order things online all the time, more than I like to admit. I am an Amazon Prime member. I own a bike, but also I have a car that uses gas. I drive a lot. My carbon footprint is large. It's not the largest, but it's large. Because it is a blurry line between convenience and doing what's right. I live in that little piece of time that I call mine, but that piece of time is not only my own life. It is the summing up of all the other lives that are simultaneous with mine, yours, ours. What does this have to do with brownness? Everything. If we can't care for one another, then we can't care for this planet. And if we can't care for this planet, then we can't care for one another. We can't care for our neighbors or our block. Not as I'm throwing trash on the street or ignoring the fact that at the same exact moment that I watch a gorgeous food documentary on Netflix, there are 3 homeless people down the block from me. As I indulge in Food Network, Top Chef, Chef's Table, and a plethora of other well-shot food and challenge shows, many people are going to bed hungry. But all those streaming options seem to be a way to fill up the actual emotional and physical wasteland in which we are currently living. When I was home, the family and I decided to watch the documentary 13th, a documentary directed by Ava DuVernay, which teaches us what the American education system definitely didn't teach me, that the 13th Amendment didn't actually end slavery, contrary to popular belief. It just hid it, cloaked it behind bars, and called it prison. I'd seen it before, but I'd forgotten so much of it, partly because of how our nation's hate is so blatant, scripted, and designed. From politicians and the media who all turn civil rights activists into criminals, and threats to the transformation of the KKK into legal segregation and Jim Crow, the war on drugs, how prosecutors, 99% of them being white, are the ones who sentence people to incarceration, not the judge. This is just a handful of it. I watched the film and I felt betrayed by the government. I couldn't help but ask, everything I have comes from that? This led me to trying to get my father to admit that he was racist. Admit it, racism is in our history, it's in our blood, especially in our Dominican blood. I needed him to admit it because I didn't want to be alone in my disbelief and anger. I'm not racist, he said. Everyone's a little racist, I told them, accidentally quoting the Avenue Q song, which is a terrible illustration of what racism is and makes it seem so innocuous that you can smile about it in a Broadway musical filled with singing puppets. I tried to explain, it's almost impossible to escape. He fought me with every ounce of his strength. Bullshit, like I was challenging that he was a good person. I told him, Pops, you can be racist and still be a good person. I'm sure Ted Bundy washed dishes. But he wouldn't relent. We were yelling at each other. My mom and sister were just watching helplessly. Why wouldn't he admit it? Was this another example of how BIPOC can internalize racism so that they might perpetuate it and also be wounded by it at the same exact time? Eventually, I backed off in a way I'd never back off with a stranger or friend. I let him have his truth. And maybe it was out of respect and understanding of what he sacrificed. How he's done so much for me. It's my pops, for Christ's sake. Race is not a comfortable conversation for any of us. It's not easy to take accountability, but we must all be honest about how we got here so we can imagine a new way. And yet, I truly believe we are closer to some new sort of lasting change than we ever have been. I believe that something is happening. I feel like more people get it, more people understand it. Sure, that can seem wildly optimistic in a climate that has kids locked in cages, an Arctic temperature above 90 degrees, mass shootings, loneliness, parents taken from their children, a world with 550,000 homeless people in the United States alone, a world where we shoot $70,000 missiles from $28 million drones flying at a cost of $3,624 an hour to kill people living on less than $1 a day. I am aware of all of this. The chaos of these times has frozen me from action and given me many a panic attack and sleepless night, causing me and my actions to feel tiny and insignificant, and yet I still have hope. Hope because of a story I read about Bernie Glassman, the founder of Zen Peacemakers. Bernie Glassman was a badass. He's known as a pioneer of social enterprise. Bernie started Greystone Bakery in Yonkers in the 1980s, and even though he didn't know shit about baking, not a damn thing, he started it because he saw that there were homeless people who needed jobs, and he liked cheesecake. So he starts this bakery, and he hires people who are homeless, and the bakery makes really good money. Enough money that they start buying real estate around the bakery to house the employees. Eventually, from there, they create a community that has childcare, healthcare, community gardens, education. Now, even after his death, they are serving more than 2,000 people a year. And Bernie was asked, will you really solve homelessness with some cheesecake? He said, yes. Choose battles that are small enough to win and big enough to matter. Okay, what battle do I choose? When there is so much to choose from, what battle do I choose in a country that often doesn't value me, my heart, my art, my sweat, my body, my voice? And this is when I begin to freeze up again. I think if I speak, what's the point? Nothing changes. If I vote, what's the point? My words aren't heard or welcome. But shit, if I am silent, guess what? Nothing changes. And then I stop. I breathe. I think about Bernie and the bakery. I think about how he started a bakery without knowing anything about baking. How he took action with the intention of helping something other than himself. Something small enough that he could win and large enough that mattered. The capacity to care for one another and to care for the planet seems to have something to do with simultaneously recognizing both our oneness as well as what makes us specific, unique, and worth caring for. The capacity to deeply see something that we take for granted or that is invisible to us impacts our capacity for conservation and humanity. In many ways, the inability of the human race to value our planet or brownness or blackness is detrimental not just to people of color, but to all of us. I believe what is destroying our world is this persistent notion that we are independent of it, that we are separate from our neighbors, our trees, our air, our blocks, that our actions don't matter in his or her life up there, separate from us, that we are immune to what we do to them. And it is this separation that allows someone to kneel on someone's neck for 8 minutes and 46 seconds, to shoot someone in the back 9 times at point blank, and to open fire on an innocent woman who was restfully sleeping in her bed. Tiny universe. It's all connected. Within each action is every action, and your relationship to all things. Every inch of your life holds all of your life. Every inch of this place we call Earth holds all of it, and it has been there for all of it. It holds your pain, your grief, your regret, your hangovers, your joy, your warmth, your hunger, your cooking, your sex, your baking, your potty breaks, anger, despair, pride, creativity, success, goodbyes, beginnings, all of it. When I think about all this, that all my actions are reflective of all my other actions and my relationship to all things, I think about a poem by the late Buddhist teacher Michael Stone. You are not a part of nature, nature is a part of you. Treat nature as you would your lungs or kidneys. Which begs me to ask the question, how do I treat my lungs or kidneys? How do I treat myself? How do I treat you? How do I care for myself? How do I treat my community, my delivery people, my teachers, my friends, my barista, the insects that sneak into my home? How do I really treat them? Because really it all comes down to small choices and small actions. Now your action might be to write a really good poem. Someone's might be to tie themselves to a tree. Someone else might help someone vote or dance in a park like no one is watching or use breastfeeding in public as their practice. Regardless of the outcome, I imagine there is activism you are already doing that you haven't even recognized as activism. You don't have to start a business or a nonprofit to make this happen. The morning after watching the documentary 13th and fighting with my father about inherent racism, my mother pulled me aside and told me, "Last night your father cried in my arms like he hadn't in a lifetime. He cried and he apologized for bringing his kids into this world with so much hate. I've never seen that side of my father ever. He doesn't know my mother shared this with me. He will now. Because actions can soften even the hardest stone. What I'm trying to say is what we're doing here is healing. We're coming close to what we have avoided. Maybe we're even letting go of preconceptions, projections, and delusions, trusting our voice in that what we do, it really makes a difference. How we move, how we breathe, how we speak, how we listen. We can continue to live in this disconnected way filled with toxic patterns, or we can heal. I love the way French Indian psychiatrist and philosopher Frantz Fanon says it. What matters is not to know the world, but to change it. The world we're trying to build, it already exists. It just doesn't exist for everyone. It's hard to think of a world with equality, regenerative equity, sustainability, and equal rights. It's hard to imagine that this hate that is ingrained in us will ever be cleansed on a cellular level, but we have to imagine it. As the poet Clint Smith tells his future son so perfectly, this world is a social construction, it can be reconstructed. This world was built, it can be rebuilt. Use everything that you have to reimagine the world. Use everything that you have to reimagine the world. I'll read you one more page. I imagine equality, healing, restoration, large and small in that direction. And I'm a fast walker, y'all, really. Not just because I'm a New Yorker, I just always have somewhere to be. Recently in Prospect Park, I watched a mother hold her child's hand as she walked so slowly along a curb, one foot in front of the other, so damn slow. I thought, will I ever be able to walk that slow? I hope so. I hope that this is me walking slowly, without a destination, walking not to get somewhere or fix something, but rather to care, to be present, to be aware of what is happening, one foot in front of the other, nothing more, nothing less. If I'm knocked down and frozen with overwhelming grief, I begin again. I persist. I enter into the terribleness again, because this is my home. And you are my people, and I'm in it for the long haul. Through all the madness, the seesaw ups and downs of the world, health, government, policy, society, and life, I will persist, because in the long run, it is perseverance, my ability to be present with all of it, and persistence that shapes the future and shapes the now. Thank you.
That comes out October 11th. I think you should all pre-order it right now. And if you closed your eyes and heard those dual set tones, his audiobook's also going to come out. And he narrates it, so you can get that too. There are a few people I need to thank before we close tonight. I'd like to thank Skylight Books for providing a safe space for calling of his words. I'd like to thank my Art Save the Vote family for showing up tonight and helping us. I want to thank Feel Good Action for being an amazing nonprofit partner. Poets and writers for their generous support. Kaloli Juice and Rob Terrell have provided some refreshments that all of you should partake in, because we're going to take that. I'd also like to thank Stephanie Wu for our wonderful art. And lastly, I'd like to thank Flo, Selena, and Pro Bono ASL for volunteering their time tonight to provide ASL access to our audience. And of course, the warmest thank you to our poets tonight. If you'll humor me, I'd like to close with this charge, something I've been thinking about while putting this event together. Albeit flawed, the founding document of our nation, the U.S. Constitution, starts off with 11 words. We the people, in order to form a more perfect union. We is not a Supreme Court. We is not an office in a White House or a person in any elected position. We, the people, is you, me, everyone in this room. The people who work in those offices, they work for us. We're the boss. So we got to start acting like one. What does our nation need? We need to get educated. We need to look at potential candidates for the job and ask the tough questions. And then when we get them those positions, we got to keep tabs on them. And we got to do some performance reviews. And if we don't like them, thank you next. The second part of that phrase hits a little different. In order to form a more perfect union. They didn't say the perfect union. They just wanted us to try to be a little better, a little braver, try something. There is a lot going on in this world, and sometimes it can feel really hard to breathe. But in those 11 words, you can catch your breath. You find your people. But when you're ready, you've got to try. That's your right. That is your voice. And that is your vote. So register, get your friends to register, educate yourselves, and vote in November. Thank you so much. Have an amazing event.
Thanks, everyone. You wouldn't mind holding your chairs? We got books for sale. Have a great night.
Thank you.
I was going to say, can all the poets come to the front, please? All the poets to the front.